It is a very beautiful Saturday morning with a lot of headlines, a lot of news making the headlines today. Let's not forget, this is our show coming to you live from our studio. Now, the major story here in the front page of the Daily Trust Saturday, as usual, it says Supreme Court serves the Yusuf, Mufwamg, 6 other governors. It says the judgments sound. That's according to lawyers. Jubilation in Kano, Jos, and other states, respectively. The PDP, Atiku, governors congratulate victorious members. Judgment should serve as rebuke to opposition parties. That's according to the winning party, the APC, the ruling party rather. And there is a graphic of the winning parties. We're talking about Dauda Lawal of Zamfara State, Yusuf Kabir of Kano State, and Caleb Mufwamg of Plateau State. It's a beautiful picture there. Below that, we see how bandits are closing in on Abuja. The riders are saying abduct, demand motorcycles, engine oil as ransom. That's a really traumatizing situation. Security expert blames informants of that, and of course we all agree that informants are part of us, people that are in our circle, our midst, that always give away our weaknesses to these people. Next, we have my domain taken over by, that's according to a traditional ruler. We've seen how these bandits tend to attack all the traditional rulers or their houses, kidnap them and all that. That's a huge way of making a statement to saying if your heads don't even feel safe, then who are you to feel safe? So, but then we have to give kudos to our security experts, because at least they are doing, much as they can. What we need more is for the federal government to give their own quota by, recruiting more people there. Besides that, we have grief and shock in the Kano community as abortion claims teenagers' life. A truly sad situation there. I mean, sex education, it is vital for us to, talk to the younger generation to understand what these things are in order not to get to this position. A sad one. That you find this story on page 10. Residents call for aerial ground operations. Key government institutions in Buari under threat. We are tackling them. That's according to the military, but then the people living there in the communities are saying we're not feeling that impact. You find that in pages 5 and 6 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Below that, we see tributes as Zulum spokesman Isa Gusau dies. Yes, a really sad situation there. Young person, losing his life at the peak of his career, giving back to his own community. You find that on page 7. And beside that sad story is a congratulatory and happy situation, happening. We saw Tinubu appoints Ali Nuhu and 10 others as arts, cultural agencies and heads. Now, this is an amazing, trip, a roadmap to rechanging, should I say, rebranding the entertainment industry, because we know that one thing that we have been talking about these people, well. Yes, yeah. Also coming out to say that we need support, we need investment, we need government to concentrate on this. Yes. This is something that would boom money for the economy. Yes, not only the industry but also the economy as well. Yeah. So it's good that, we saw the first step the president did, which was to make a ministry of its own on art and entertainment. And then right now there's a step, and who better to get the MD
definitely
of that particular organization than someone who has been exactly a legend,
in and out of the industry and has been there for a very long time.
Exactly.
And people look up to him,
Of course. And you can see the passion. Like Ali Nuhu's movie, when you watch him from the beginning of his career to now, it doesn't
the
change.
Improvement.
The energy.
And yes.
The energy. No, he's still keeping
that's actually one thing that you just mentioned. The energy is there, like 247, like as if he's born for entertainment, I guess.
Entertainment.
Because there are people that's their calling, and that's it.
Exactly.
You just said it. So I'm sure you could try other things, by the side, but there should be one thing that you should be known for. Yes. And that is.
So everybody, I'm sure, agrees that he would definitely impact positively in the growing of this sector. So we wish them all the best, and we hope that it's the sectors that they're trying to create remits a lot to the Nigerian economy, because right now the treasury is a bit shaky. All right, I wanted to hear from you from this victory. Yesterday was chaotic for us here. Trying to gather all the stories back to back as it was coming in.
And we kept going live, getting feeds from the, So yesterday was actually a huge celebration for people. I was on social media yesterday and I was seeing everybody say, well, who are you supporting? I said, I don't have a particular person I'm supporting. Don't quote me before you go and make reference to me and say, Fati said, so I'm not supporting any, I'm just neutral. I'm everywhere. Anybody that wins, wins,
at the end of the
people
day,
were really happy. Those rooting for the Plateau State governor, for the Zamfara State, and Gida, of course, the people of Kano, they were everywhere on social media, It's massive.
I mean, at the end of the day, Fatima, the win is the win for the states. It's
at
not,
the end of the day.
It's not about the person.
It's not about the person.
As long as the states, the people are happy, and then we see these people. One thing is that these governors, your people have affirmed that they really like you, so please use this opportunity.
Both parties are good. They would have done good to the state at the end.
And there is this, notion going out. People are saying that
they could come together.
No, it's because the APC are fighting for, they want to own the whole state. But
which is not possible.
It's not possible. Yeah. We also need oppositions.
It's not possible.
But it's not that. I mean, Constitution has given every member rights for them to seek this, go to trial and all that. So even if it wasn't, if it was the APC that won, then definitely the opposition
still
party
going to be the same thing. Yes.
So it's just them exercising their rights, no hard feelings. But then everything turned out, and we hope it was for the better for the people of this state, respectively. We saw people show their jubilation through our correspondent Idris Ibrahim, who brought us back to back on the happening. Also, Ado Musa.
And even Sagir also here in Abuja,
in the Federal Capital Territory. And one thing that got me, riled up about this whole situation is how these things just, at the end of the day, it just became like a waste of time and emotional stress.
No, it wasn't actually, because people were looking up to...
No, it was an emotional stress from the first beginning. These people were already the winners. They were already the governors.
Yeah, detention. You mean detention that they may be going through, not knowing if they are going to be, yes.
Exactly, not just them, but their supporters.
It's
and
always,
the state
their politicians, I'm sure they're used to it.
All about the people of Kano. We saw, especially the people of Kano, we saw the roller coaster trauma that those people went through. Somebody went on TikTok and was crying.
I must commend the fact that there was there's no crisis, no fights, between parties because this one is pronounced or that one. That's the most, intriguing part of the whole thing. Everywhere was peaceful, even after the pronouncement.
I mean, yesterday when we spoke to our Media Trust Group political editor, Clement, one thing he mentioned was the fact that people are now aware that you don't need to destroy your property or kill yourself
to fight.
You
can lend your voice. You can do that.
You can show that I support this person, but it's not that deep, for you people to ruin your career. So, we are happy for all the people of this about 8 states, and we hope that the governors, make all their due of all the promises that they made them. Well, below the headlines of the Daily Trust newspaper, it says the Edu Gates, Tinubu suspends Empower, school feeding, and others. Yes, all the social, should I say, the vulnerable things that they are doing to society because of the controversy that is surrounding the humanitarian ministry. Now he's putting everything on hold, which is something I agree on. There needs to be a little bit a structure, restructuring of how these things goes. You find that story on page 7. Entertainment, it says, why I want to be the next Nafisa Abdullahi of Kanyewood. That's according to Zubaida. You find that on page 12. For Zubaida, you should aspire to be your own self. Create your own name. Nafisa Abdullahi created her own name. I think that would be the best thing that you could do for yourself.
Always idolize or want to imitate or be like someone because they like the person's ways or, you know, their upbringing, their morals, you know, all that.
Yes.
But then be yourself, create your own identity. It's very, very important.
It is very important.
So you don't get lost in
the other person. We've seen people kickstart careers trying to be like someone, and then you lose your identity. You will never be that person
because
you've lost yourself.
Focused on is to see that you want to become that person that you have said you want to become,
and you will not be able to do it because that person was being themselves. So Zubaida, you're doing an amazing thing, but start by saying I want to be Zubaida, you know, somebody that would definitely impact positively on the entertainment industry. All right, these are some of the stories that you can get and more on the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Okay, so let's quickly look into the Guardian this morning. The rider on top there says how new migration policy affects Nigerians, Britain's economy. You can find that story on page 24 and 25. The inclusive entrepreneurial ecosystem is key to bridging funding gap. Florence Chikezi, you can find that story on page 15. You know, Sumaya, one thing I always like is the fact that you always find something about women in the front pages. You know, Daily Trust has of this, and then this one, always motivating women to, you know, do something. Indeed, and I agree with what she said. Yes. You know, inclusivity in entrepreneurial ecosystem, like women need to create, meet each other. Yes. Yeah, I've seen organizations come up like that. If you're into business, then you work together. There are things you learn from each other without feeling threatened to grow. There are organizations that give their staff the opportunity to do other side jobs, like sell things even within the premises or outside during break time. You could go just, you know, that is a good thing, because that's a way of, you know, encouraging boosting people not to just stick to their salary. One source of income. No, one source will not work. Yeah. So that's a good one. You can pick the Guardian and go through that story. And then the major story there says governorship tussle, jubilation as Supreme Court voids sack of governors Yusuf, Mufwamg, and Lawal. You can find that story on page 2. And then below the major story, Tinubu suspends National Social Investment Program, which Sumaya just said. You can find that story on page 3 as well. And you know, Sumaya, it's actually very important, you know, this investment activities that goes on in different states, because that way you'll be able to help the poor and vulnerable. But then if something is wrong in the system, it doesn't make it. Then there should be a look restructuring into, yes, and then see what is going wrong, so that they can be restructured. They can restructure and then do what is right. Put the right person to carry out. To carry out this, Fatih, if you should ask an average Nigerian, I'm talking about people that are really needy of this initiatives. If you ask them, they will tell you literally that they don't want this. Yes. They would push and say we don't want palliative because we do not even feel the palliative, the impact at all on people. And that is something that a lot of people, you know, when you hear them, it's so sad when you tell them that I don't want the palliative because I know it will not even get to me. So it's really a sad situation whereby this initiative is created for people that don't have the money, people that are really needy, people that sleep hungry. But then at the end of the day, these people are not getting it. Else you would see the rich, you know, filling up their pockets more, which brings us to the whole, where is our patriotic heart? Yeah. How come you don't even have pity for your fellow people, your followers? Yes. What happened? So it's really a sad situation, and it's good that the president finally is listening. Because, you know, I remember clearly that during the Buhari's tenure, there were investments like this, and they've actually reached out to, you know, a lot of poor and vulnerable people, which they have benefited. Some, you know, from the age of maybe, let's say, 45, 60, they are given this amount, you know, for malnutrition's sake, so that they can be healthy. And then they were doing some skill acquisitions for the youths, and, you know, just to make sure that they have something, you know, take some student, or should I say, or the graduates off the street, giving them the chance to become somebody. Of course. So yeah, it's actually a good thing to look into it, because that's where the more of the investment should go to the youths, because I feel they are the future of tomorrow, you know. Yes. So you can find that story on page 3. And then let's look at let's work for good for Nigerians. Tinubu charges APC governors. You can find that story on page 18. No date yet for inauguration of Supreme Court's new Justice NGC
clarifies. You can find that story on page 3. Judgment justifies decision to end governor petition in apex court, says Nigerians. You can find that story on page 2. And that's the whole story on the front page of the Guardian.
All right, let's move on to the Blueprint Weekend. At the top of the page there it says Armed Forces Remembrance Day, how our fallen heroes should be honored. That's according to the widows of these people, veterans and others. It should go beyond wreath and laying rituals. Indeed, and these people say, put their life down for the nation. So of course it should go beyond that. Moving on, you find that on page 26 and 27. Below there, there's a question that the Blueprint always asks. Ibrahim Ogehi and Ben Iroha, where are they now? Assignments for everybody there. Below there, we see women empowerment. We have to be realistic about our personal professional capabilities. That's according to Modi and Neni. If you want details on that, you can find it on page 21. Supreme Court verdict must serve as rebuke to PDP, LP, and others. That's according to APC. Major stories saying Africa draws global attention as AFCON 2023 kicks off today in Cote d'Ivoire. Interesting there, Morocco, Senegal, Egypt, hot favorites. Salah or Osimhen battle for the Golden Boot. Interesting. You'll find that on page 5 and 6. I mean, this is one event that tends to bring Africa together. Already we know how West Africa tends to do their thing differently. East Africa do theirs, and there is South, but then the AFCON brings the whole of Africa together. And then you go on social media and you see how interactive people are from all these places. Below that, we see local equity market sustains the bullish run and gains 244 billion naira. Busy Friday as Supreme Court okays 8 governors' electoral victories. Tinubu suspend the NSIP, raises ministerial panel to review operations. Another good one there. Let's work for the good of Nigerians. Tinubu tax APC governors. Indeed, I mean, it should be a tax for all the governors too. Now, these are some of the stories on the Blueprint Weekend.
Okay, let's look at the Saturday Punch. Idu returns doubtful as Tinubu suspends cash transfer, empower orders. You can find that story on page 9. AFCON, Super Eagles begin battle for 4th title in Cote d'Ivoire. You can find that story on page 32. Sumaya, our sports Super Eagles are doing really well. Yeah, I'm happy, I'm proud.
Yeah, we are proud. It's just sad that, another person, Sadiq Omar, went into injury again.
Yes.
So, but then we hope that this could be, would turn out to be good for us, Nigerian.
Yes, you can find that story on page 32. The major story, governorship polls. Governors woo challengers after Supreme Court's affirmation as supporters celebrate. Sanwo-Olu, Yusuf, Otu, Mohammed, Mufwamg, Lawal, Oti, 6 opponents support. Lawyers, CSOs call for urgent electoral reforms, says court shouldn't determine poll winners. You can find that story on page 4. It's a good thing, like I said, they can come together to work for the betterment of the state. Indeed. Because there are people, they are there to govern people, and people will learn from them. Indeed. They are going to be like godfathers at the end of the day. When there's peace and unity amongst the politicians, the main people, I'm sure the people of that state will also have, to say that, okay, since these people have settled, yes, so we should be fine too. You can find all that story on page 4. How fake professor infiltrates Nigerian universities, vice chancellor cancels secretary. You can find that story on page 2. Now, Sumaya, that's, remember we talked about education. Now, in every, I don't know what's happening in every sector, you must find someone that is, fake. Either a medical doctor that claims to be a doctor.
The system is having an issue. How can you have fake professors to come and lecture your students? I mean, that is something that is wrong with it. We
need to go back to the drawing board and see where the disconnection is coming from. Yes. So you can find that story on page 2. I relied on 16 naira for feeding monthly while in university, Fon Abadan. You can find that story on page 27. Nothing will change our loyalty to TB Joshua worshippers. You can find that story on page 20. Things fall apart as Davido's family squabble deepens. Now, that's entertainment story for Sumaya, which she's going to tell us more about it later, I'm sure. You can find that story on page 16. It will be difficult to dislodge APC in 2027, declares PDP.
But what is with the dislodging, though?
I don't really get it.
At the end of the day, party is just a way to navigate through politics, you know, to narrow down instead of people. If it should be individually, they would have tons and it would be too hectic for everybody. You know, so party is just that way to navigate. So it's not the top priority. The top priority is dislodge. Nigeria. Yes, is the country.
Yes. It's the country itself.
In a party and all that. So that okay.
You know, it's a harmful. And the good thing is you always find these stories and you can maybe find solutions and then see where the problem is coming from. When you pick the newspapers, I'll go through the story.
Now we know PDP are coming for APC. So
2027.
All the battle does not affect the country.
Well, let's see how it turns out. Because definitely, you know, they'll always come out. So you can find that story on page 10. And that's it for The Punch this morning.
All right, Saturday Vanguard, the major story is saying Guba cases, Supreme Court rights all wrongs of appeal courts, and it's just restating, you know, the front pages of the major story of all the front pages. So let's move away from that. It says from Farouk to Edu, the murky reality of poverty alleviation programs in Nigeria. You want that details? It's on page 9. Shaky Eagles begin AFCON race tomorrow. I mean, I don't like this caption at all. Nigerians bank on surprise, which is a really sad thing. I'm banking on the will deliver, not surprise. Ivory Coast play Guinea-Bissau in opener today, so it kicks off, and we hope we see a good result from the. We hope that we see the main thing from the lead story there. All right, beside that, we see Abuja under siege, kidnapping now daily, sad situation, bloody January 2024, how Nigeria lost 261 lives to violence, accidents, others in 9 days, and loses 29 persons daily on average. Yeah, December was sad, even to January for everybody, a sad situation you'll find on page 12. At the top of the page, it says, I feel honored beginning another phase of my career. That's according to Tiwa Savage. Princess Eduwo, they know there's a feature of her. So if you want those stories, you can find them on page 19. Dangote Refinery begins production. And Petroleum Industry Act is a total nonsense. It will not change anything until states as federating units are allowed to use their God-given resources to develop their areas and people. That's according to Obong Victor Atta in an explosive interview out on Monday. So, you know, keep a ear to the ground on this report. We would want to hear that as well. Now, these are some of the stories on Saturday Vanguard. And with that, of course, we have to wrap up the segment of the newspaper review. Hope that you were, you know, heightened on everything that that is exactly
this morning.